from maybe 10 or 15 to 1. He leveraged it at 100 to 1 by buying sovereign debt in Europe. So all it took was 1% move in the direction of sovereign debt of the Italian bonds or Greek bonds for the firm to be wiped out. Oh, and by the way, based on the balance sheet of leveraging 100 to 1, he paid himself an enormous multi-million-dollar bonus. Then the markets moved against him by 1%, and the probability of that is about 100%. And the firm's bankrupt. He keeps his money. The customers get nothing. And the government has to deal with paying off anyone in any way that they can. The taxpayers pay.
That doesn't sound like an investing guru. That sounds like some person that robs banks so they can go gamble in Las Vegas. This sounds like a completely insane, degenerate, compulsive gambler.
Yes, it's like Corzine took the entire value of that firm, millions of dollars, and went into Las Vegas, stepped up to the roulette wheel, and didn't even put white, black, or red. He put it on a number, like number 37. Like the odds are extraordinarily minute that it would win. And, of course, he lost to that bet, and he lost not only the entire firm's equity, but he lost all the associated debt, all the leverage and everything that's now being bailed out to the tune of millions and millions and millions.
Stay there, Max. This is a suicide banker, then, taking us all with them. We'll be right back with Max Keiser, folks. This is some of the biggest news ever. This will make 2008 look like a cakewalk. Prisonplanet.tv, Infowars.com, MaxKeiser.com. Well, Max is going to be with us pretty much for the rest of the hour. Aaron Dykes is there scanning the news as we speak. I'm going to get Kurt Nimmo or Paul Watson to post the article, or Aaron can run in there and do it himself while he co-hosts with me. Credit Suisse, a big ratings outfit and investment group, they are predicting something pretty big, and it's basically what we've already been saying. It's just the facts of history. But before we give you this breaking news, listen to what Max Keiser said. And during the break we were talking. It's literally like taking everybody's private accounts in sub-companies and banking systems and brokerage firms that MF Global had bought out, sometimes hostilely. They buy your company, they buy your credit union, whatever it is, and then you go to get your money, and they tell you, sorry, we're keeping it. This is the gamblers that run these big companies. As things get worse and worse, they're taking more and more reckless bets, which makes it get even more and more out of control. So I want to ask Max Keiser, after we cover this top news story, this breaking news, who is the winner? Because we know Corzine's up there betting on one number, the entire house and everybody's pensions, you name it, on one number, which is totally insane. One chance out of, like you said, 100, he would make it.
Yeah.
But who is the house? Who is the casino? Who is winning at the end? And have they, in their call for a new Bank of the World and all this, gone too far? Will they discredit themselves so bad it doesn't work? Short segment, but I want you to answer that in a moment. But Aaron Dykes, give them the breaking news and get Max Keiser's quote on that first.
Well, this is up at Zero Hedge, Alex. Credit Suisse goes for broke, predicts end of euro and bank runs. There's a lot here, but one of the key quotes is, we seem to have entered the last days of the euro as we currently know it. It doesn't make a breakup very likely, but it does mean some extraordinary things will almost certainly have to happen to prevent the progressive closure of all the Eurozone sovereign bond markets, and potentially accompanied by escalating runs. And they're calling for more intervention from the ECB, of course.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we've been saying is the problem, and what's been happening with Greece and Ireland and Italy. People are pulling their money out of these banks, and they're just causing more instability and making the situation become ever greater, more of a crisis. And so Germany, of course, is in the catbird seat, because if there's a cheap euro because of uncertainty, they have a big export market. But if they end up federalizing the entire Eurozone and launching euro bonds, they're all going to come out of Berlin and Deutsche Bank will be a huge winner in that case. So Germany and England are now back at each other's throats. Cameron and Merkel recently got together, and Merkel basically read Cameron the Riot Act and said, look, punk, you don't tell us what you want us to do. Go back at your little island over there and shut up. So Germany is swinging its weight around in the continental Europe. So they're now emerging, as I predicted it 2 years ago. Germany is emerging as a superpower, and they own the reunification of the country. They bring back the Deutsche Mark, or the equivalent of the Deutsche Mark, or just run the Eurozone from Berlin. And they are Germany 4.0, the Fourth Reich. And they're quite proud of it, and now they're stretching their wings, and they're just, hitting Cameron in the face. They basically slapped him in the face in public. And Cameron, like Lord Chamberlain from 1940s, of course, just appeased the Germans and went back to his people and said, well, I'm sure that they didn't mean it. So he's being made look like an idiot, and Germany is in control.
Yeah, for those that don't know,
all the cards.
For those that don't know, she told him, you will not have a referendum in the super Euro taking over, and I think that answers my own question. They've always planned to implode the whole system and then consolidate it with a new global bank of the world, new world order. But what about Time Magazine, Financial Times of London, all of them admitting that it's a technocratic banker occupation, global government of foreign by Goldman Sachs? There it is, Max, but we don't get a gold star for being right. We get ridiculed.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You have been absolutely right. These technocrats, which is a way to code for banker, they're not technocrats, they're banker. Monty in Italy is Goldman Sachs through and through. Same thing in Greece. And this unelected bankers are now running these countries, and Goldman and their coterie of insiders are now running riot all over Europe, and Deutsche Bank in Germany are loving it. And they've succeeded in that entire coup d'etat of the region. I'm in France. France is now quite nervous because their yields on their bonds are now getting at those levels where they start to get very nervous about sovereignty and issues of this nature. So there's a lot of nervousness there in France. And, Credit Suisse, of course, is absolutely right. This thing is going to blow. And the euro is going into a hugely turbulent period. Now,
Max, stay there. We got to come back after break. Tell us what's coming next, this hugely unstable point, this critical juncture, and we'll get into some other key news with Max Keiser. Folks, no matter who you are out there, this is going to affect you. This is global worldwide depression. By the way, I've tried to be nuanced and sophisticated about the whole Occupy Wall Street situation. We're going to get Max Keiser's take on that in a moment, but finish up his point about where all this is going on the timetable and why this affects people. I get comments all the time that I don't care about stocks and bonds, or I don't care about the dollar. I'm not invested in that. I work at Home Depot or whatever. Folks, this affects your business. It affects where you work. It affects the company you own, whether it's a coffee shop or a Fortune 500. This is the wealth of the world being tied up in giant scams and Ponzi schemes with a financial elite that put its people in every position of power, and who have a plan to implode the world economy by design and set the precedent to literally reduce us all down to servile serfs. This is economic warfare. This is horrible. And it's either us or them. But you notice they just get away with more and more and more. Now the global government is out in the open. But you're still a kook if you talk about it. I've got the New York Times attacking us. We've got, with horrible disinformation. We've got Forbes just the last 2 days. And now Aaron has the news. Let's just get to this first, then go into where it's all going with Max Keiser. The main Occupy Wall Street site has banned my name. I'm already banned at most universities. I'm banned at most military bases. I'm banned at public transport Wi-Fi hubs that are taxpayer paid for in much of Europe. I'm getting banned everywhere. Infowars.com, Alex Jones has been banned off of Google News. Prisonplanet and Infowars kicked off of it. It's just everywhere because we know what we're talking about. We'll stand up and go, when they take $1.2 billion of people's private accounts, look, the CFTC admits it's illegal, but it'll do nothing. I mean, I'll actually read the CFTC press release. Woo, big deal. I mean, we're not really that radical. I'm old-fashioned. I want freedom. And we're going into such tyranny. Aaron, tell folks the latest news you dug up.
Yeah, the latest is an article by Kurt Nemo. It's up at Infowars.com. Headline, OWS website bans Alex Jones conspiracy theories. And it gets into how OccupyWallStreet.org, which is an unofficial but sort of de facto leader of this movement, and they're broadcasting out of Zuccotti Park apparently, They have posted on their website the following: conspiracy theories, including any attempt to spam material by David Icke, Lyndon LaRouche, David Duke, or Alex Jones, all very different people, by the way, will be removed immediately, and the spammer will receive a swift global network ban. In other words, banned from the site. Fascist propaganda, including any attempt to spam these 4 people again, will be treated with the similar actions. In that, we are very specific about what fascism is. The word has a meaning.
Yeah, so now we see at least the leaders of this, the George Soros group, who tried to co-opt it, and then they attacked the peaceful protesters, using them as a cutout to then make the people running it look like victims in their little October revolution. They sit there as we stand up against the police beating them, stand up for the First Amendment, point out that nowhere are Ron Paul signs allowed, they'll tear them down. That is the leaders of it. They say there's not leaders. There are. They're the Democratic Party trying to co-opt it, but it's failing. See, and then they lie and say we're attacking people protesting Wall Street. No, we're not. We pioneered going after these crooks with Max Keiser, Gerald Celente, Ron Paul. I'm talking 17 years I've been covering with George Humphrey, economist, derivatives, and all this. This is unbelievable, and it shows they're scared to death. They want left and right divided. They want Republicans attacking all people that protest Wall Street. They want Democrats attacking the entire Tea Party. The Republicans tried to co-opt the Tea Party. They tried to ban my name at these events when I was part of starting it with Ron Paul. They are scared of us getting together through populism. And this has got to be protested, folks. You've got to point out this is so authoritarian that this is an open public forum. Everybody come, and then be subtly influenced by us. The answer is raise taxes on the middle class to get more bailout money to foreign bankers. Oh, look, all these big bankers that have gotten billion-dollar bailouts like Warren Buffett off the taxpayer money. He says raise money on the rich, but he means somebody making $125,000 a year. Max Keiser, this is outrageous information. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that you should go to London, and you should step onto the world stage, because your show, when I go to London, people note Alex Jones. When I did my shows in London, I had 2 sellout performances at the King's Head in Camden, and people totally know Alex Jones at Infowars, and they know your whole place in the history of this movement, or movements, plural, and, you're letting the local, don't let the turkeys get you down, if you're an eagle. I forget how that saying goes, but anyway, you're letting the little riffraff, the local riffraff, get you down. I'm telling you, if you come to London, go to London and do a show at the London, you have huge crowds, international press. People love you all over Europe. When I was in the Middle East, when I was in Cairo, people listen to Infowars in Cairo. They know the show there. You're an international phenomenon, and you don't know it because you're in frickin' Austin, Texas. And, you don't know. You haven't seen people on the street.
No, I do. Max, you're very nice. But sure. We have millions of listeners. My point is, this shows that the establishment Democrats, just like the establishment Republicans, that are wedged at the hip, as you pointed out, in Fall the Republic, they are trying to dominate it. And now they're having the police attack Occupy Wall Street because I believe they failed in co-opting it. What's your take on what's happening with Occupy Wall Street and what you were telling me privately about Wall Street's view of those guys?
Well, the Wall Street is really upset that they are being painted as scum, and they like to think of themselves as important people doing God's work, and the fact that every single day they've got people on the street effectively throwing tomatoes at them, it really has got them upset. And so I think in response, they're taking even greater risks. They're saying, oh, yeah, you think we're so bad? Well, let's do an MF Global. Let's destroy Jeffries. Let's take this down. Let's take that down. So they're becoming very antagonistic. They're now just destroying companies to show people they've got power, because this Occupy Wall Street is insinuating that these guys don't have all the power, that maybe the people have the power. So in response, they're becoming even more hostile, more belligerent, more reckless, taking bigger risks. And this, of course, puts enormous strain on the government, because the government has to bail them out because all of their risk-taking schemes end in failure. So this is just exacerbating the situation, and it's a real war. The people on the street have really got the attention of the people on Wall Street. No matter how many times they pretend like they don't care, they are really taking this seriously. And I hope the people in the Occupy movement understand that they have really drawn the enemy out, and there is really a lot of shots going back and forth. And we see it with the MF Global blow-up. We